Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanatari Yamuna Tira Vanatari Yamuna Tira Vanatari Yamuna Tira Vanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanatari 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 Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So today we're going to be reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 3 and 14 and chapter 3 and 10. Just really briefly, because today we're doing the grain ceremony, and this has to do with grains and sacrifices. Anad Bhavanti Bhutani
Bhavanti Bhutani.
Arjanyad Ana Sambhava
Arjuna Sambhava.
Yagya Bhavati Parjanyo
Yagya Bhavati Parjanyo.
Yagya Karma Samudbhava.
Yagya Karma Samudbhava.
All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya, or sacrifice, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. Please repeat with me. All living bodies
All living bodies
subsist on food grains,
subsist on food grains,
which are produced from rains,
which are produced from rains.
and rains are produced by performance of yagya,
Rains are produced by performance of yagya,
sacrifice,
sacrifice,
and yagya
and yagya
is born of prescribed duties.
is born of prescribed duties.
Okay, and now this is Bhagavad Gita 3, verse 10. Sahayagya prajasristva Sahayagya prajasristva Purovacha Prajapati
Parovagya Prajapati
Anena Prasavishyadvam
Nena Prasavishyadvam
Asavostu Istakamaduk Asavostu Istakamaduk. So this is translated from the Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Sri Swami Prabhupada. In the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures sent forth generations of men and demigods, along with sacrifices for God, or Vishnu, and blessed them by saying, "Be thou happy by this yajna, or sacrifice, because its performance will bestow upon you all desirable things." So translation, please repeat with me. In the beginning of creation,
the beginning of creation,
the Lord of all creatures
the Lord of all creatures
sent forth generations of men and demigods,
sent forth generations of men and demigods,
along with sacrifices for God,
along with sacrifices for God,
Vishnu, and blessed them by saying,
bless them by saying,
"Be thou happy
"Be thou happy
by this yajna,
by this yajna,
sacrifice, because its performance
because its performance
will bestow upon you
will bestow upon you
all desirable things."
all desirable things.
Okay, so we're going to do a little commentary on these two verses and connect it with our ceremony. But before we do that, we're going to invoke the mercy of our Guru and the predecessor mentors and spiritual leaders by chanting these Vedic mantras. Om Anjanat Mirandasya Jananjana Shalakasya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svaya Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpataruyascha Kripa Sindhuya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the Bhagavad Gita is a divine message that God has given us from all time. It literally means the song of God. And I like to think of it as the love song of God, because He didn't forget us in this Kali Yuga age. There are 4 ages of mankind, and each one gets progressively worse. And we're said to be in the worst age. But within this age, there is a benediction, a boon, that the Lord Himself would come and He would give us a simple means of reconnecting with Him and being happy, even within this dark age of Kali. Kali means the age of quarrel and hypocrisy and deceit and fear and greed and all those qualities that do not promote peace. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the formula for peace. And he explains that in the beginning, when He created everything, God created everything, He wanted us to be happy. And he gave us the means to be happy. He said he created us, and he created sacrifices that we needed to do as human beings. See, animals can't do sacrifices. Trees can't do sacrifices. Birds can't do sacrifices. But human beings can do sacrifices because they have been given the intelligence to do sacrifices. So today we're gathered in this lovely devotional home to actually do a sacrifice. It's simple, but it's profound because it is part of the formula that God has given for success. And, we all want to be successful, but we've so far deviated from that formula. So Krishna, God, he's given us little sacrifices that we do along the way as human beings that help us to be happy and successful. And then this grain ceremony called Anna Prashana is one of those sacrifices. And it literally means feeding the first food or the first grain or the first rice to the baby. And it's a community event. That's why we're so glad to have all these community and family people together, because families that worship together and pray together and sacrifice together, they stay together and they support each other and they help each other. And our family is so much bigger than just our biological family, especially in this age. Our family is, as it said in the Bible, when they asked Jesus who was his mother and father, and the Lord Jesus said, my mother and father and sister and brother are they that do the will of God. So that's true for all of us, that anyone who is dedicated their life to divine principles, to doing the will of God, that's our sister and our brother and our mother and our father. So with sacrifices, the very word itself sometimes is not very appealing because we don't generally think that we want to sacrifice anything. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he says that there are two kinds of success or gratification. One is called Shreya and one is called Praya. And Praya is like a child. I want it now, I want it all, as we see on the commercial. But Shreya is for the intelligent, wise person that, I may have to go to college, I may have to study, I may have to do some austerities, I may have to do some hold up of my pleasure in order to have greater pleasure. So that's the science of living in life, that for human beings to sacrifice to get greater benefit. So these samskaras, or these sacrifices, they start before the child is conceived. There's certain prayers that people come together and they pray for the baby and they pray for the mother and father. Marriage itself is called a sacrifice. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says wise people don't give up these sacrifices, even though there's some challenge or difficulty with it. And so we're learning now that because we haven't been doing sacrifices as human beings, we're having so many problems. Sacrifices connect us to our divine source. They make us realize that we're not the all in all. They make us realize there's someone and something else that we need to be accountable to, and that's protecting us and providing for us. Krishna gives us sunlight and water and food, and taking time to say thank you, God, or thank you, Lord, is a very important part of an intelligent or grateful heart. So when he says all living beings subsist off food grains, that means we have to eat to live. And in order to really properly eat, we have to understand the science. Where is the food grains coming from? Is it magical? Is it just some haphazard black hole that everything fell into and fell out of, and boom, we got food and trees and order and science and sun and moon? No, there's an intelligent, loving being that provided all of this for us. And as we were driving here, we were thinking God didn't have to give us so much variety. I mean, he could have made 10 flowers. He made thousands and millions and colors of every hue and description and trees of. So God, out of his love for us, has given us so much. And when we do sacrifice, we acknowledge that love. So today we're going to say certain prayers as we chant and ask the Lord to bless our Shamasunda Lamar Lee, and that his eating may be blessed, and his sharing may be blessed, and his digestion may be blessed, and that he will be actually a joy to his parents and his family as he grows along. So it's very important to understand that these rites of passages occur. In America, we don't have it so much, but in other third world countries, so to speak, they do rites of passages. When the children reach puberty, there's certain ceremonies and acknowledgement. When people get older, there's certain ceremony, acknowledgement. And I guess maybe the closest thing that we have in Western culture may be, well, there's marriage, but there's also maybe high school graduation or college graduation. That's kind of a rite of passage where...
Christening, too.
Say what?
Christening.
Christening, yes. So all of these are very important sacred ceremonies that should be observed and honored and witnessed. And for example, according to the ancient scriptures, if you witness something, you're responsible for that. If you witness something, you have to have some responsibility for that. So all of us witnessing this baby's next step today, we are accepting responsibility for blessing this child and their parents so that they can have a healthy, happy family. And so we are going to stop here. That's it, the class. Very simple. Any questions or comments?
I want to thank you for that. That was very succinct and to the point, and gives us a guide to live our lives by.
Thank you.
I think you could throw in some parental advice if you'd like.
No.
Since you have lots of experience.
Yeah, my daughter, Radharani, she said, Monty, you should write a book about parenting. But parenting is, for Travis and Krishna, is a very, very heavy-duty responsibility that you don't want to take lightly, and you're not, obviously. It is a recognition that God is entrusting you with a tiny part of himself, that you have to be responsible for their physical, mental, spiritual, emotional needs. That's heavy. And when I have 10 children that I've given birth to, and I have many other spiritual children, but early on in my parenting, I realized, how am I going to do this? I'm going to protect this baby. I'm going to provide, So it made me really surrender to God more. Always begging for his help, his assistance, his, intelligence. But I would say that the best gift that you all can give Shama Sundar is a loving relationship between you all. Today, so many people are suffering, children, because their parents are at odds and enmity to one another. And it's like really taking the children and ripping them apart, because these children represent half the mother and half the dad. So having a loving, courteous, kind, respectful, thoughtful relationship is of infinite value to the child. And the other thing is, making sure that you raise your child in a spiritual environment. Like now our youngest son is 19, and, my oldest child is probably 47. I hate to give away her age because she looks so good, but... the things that we did were kind of simple, Travis, like making sure that I acknowledged that these were people, and they didn't belong to me. If something belongs to me, I could say, oh, just throw that anywhere. But if I'm realizing this is somebody else's, how well will I treat him or her? So early on, realize that's not your child. They come through you. But that child comes from something that's greater than all of us. So how we treat that child, I used to, when the children were little and they, instead of always towering over, I'd stoop down to talk to them. Simple stuff. So they could feel some kind of you know. And then we read to the children every day. And your mother knows because she did that with her children. Yeah, every day we had a reading. And my children would, when they were younger, sometimes they might want to do something else. But do you know, every one of them, except maybe Vishnu, he had to come, has said, thank you, Mata, for doing that reading every day. And we would read from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, some scripture, and then I would ask them to share what they got out of it, even when they were little. And so now they're very articulate, almost all of them. They could talk about it because we did that. So reading is key every day. And then, you know, exposing them to nature a lot, like taking them out in nature. You all have a park right here, it's so good, you know. A lot of this TV, but we want to expose them to more natural lifestyle that they'll appreciate and get their hands in dirt and feel that it's part of, you know, we're connected to Mother Earth like that. And let's see, what else? You know, what you don't know, take time to learn it. You know, my children sometimes tease me because they said, Ma, you're so much different with this one than you were with ours. You know, I learned.
So the young ones got all the benefit, yeah.
But no, the oldest children got benefit too, because even when you're learning, if you're a good, conscientious parent, because everything you do out of love, Krishna kind of makes up. That's why he said, I carry what you like. So even if you make mistakes, God covers it. That's the beauty of doing things within the framework of God consciousness. If you make mistakes, God will cover you. But outside of that, you got to be responsible. So, don't be afraid to learn new parenting things, to hear from others. Definitely appreciate this wonderful jewel that you have here that has raised her own children and has, you know, insight and wisdom. You know, this is how we develop as community when we honor the elders for their wisdom and appreciate them. And then be very careful what you allow your children to take in. You know, for us, thank God, we only offered food to God and then we gave it to the children. Protective, you know, but that means not just literal food, but it also means mental, like what are they hearing and who are they associating with. And don't be afraid to have your rule. Like when I was growing up, my children were growing up, they wanted to have sleepovers. I never felt comfortable with that. Because unless somebody I knew, like a devotee friend that we were real close or aunt, we didn't do that. Because it's just so many variables in other people's houses that we don't know. And they were like, Marta, everybody else is doing it. I said, yeah, honey, but we're not everybody else. You know, we're us. But that's another thing that a lot of times they thanked me for today, that they're older, and I didn't allow that because other things came out when people were there. I mean, I wish that could be so because it would be so much, but we just didn't do it. So don't be afraid to make intelligent rules for your children and stick by them as long as you do it out of love. That's the thing. I was when I was a new devotee, we were in Dallas, Texas, and Prabhupada was there teaching. He had a class with the teachers, and I wasn't a teacher at that time. I was 19 or something. And my mother pushed me literally in the room, thank God, because I was so shy and I wouldn't have gone in there and Prabhupada, you know. And I don't remember anything but 3 things that Prabhupada said. He said the most important thing that you need to teach children is to love them. That's what he said. And boy, oh boy, if we had heeded that, we wouldn't have been in so much. Don't let people handle children if they don't love them.
Right.
And then he said, don't hit the children with sticks. Just show them the sticks. Okay, if you're not, you know. And let's see. Well, no, those were the 2 things I remember. He shared a lot, but those 2 things stuck with me for over 40-something years, you know. Love the children and don't hit them with sticks. Now I have.
Well, you had to consider the audience.
Yes. Because my mother, she used her little switch every once in a while, and she did it out of love, and you know, I turned out
Splice
to be
butters.
good.
My mom used to wear all the place.
My mother had that little switch, honey. My mother, she, you know. But mainly you'll find that if you have good routines in your family, there's a lot less need for rules because there's just a way
It's
that things
smooth.
happen.
Yeah.
You know, we go to bed and we drink our milk and we read a story. So that's the routine. We get up, we brush our teeth. So having these routines all along, you'll have less need for rules. But rules are important, but we don't need so many of them. And of course, you're breastfeeding, which is awesome. Just a natural gift you give to that child, you know, wonderful. They have protection against illness when they get old. They won't be as likely sick. So many good things. And I think that's about it as far as sharing. Can you think of anything else, Krishna Kumar?
Terry, Prabhu.
Well, how do you balance the energy of the father and the mother with the child learning and growing and becoming we also become growing personalities. How do you stay on supportive roles with that?
That is such a good question, Tarek Prabhu, because it's very important to have the balance between the female and the male energy, the father and the mother. And I think the most important thing is to recognize that you're two different people, you have two different styles of parenting, and sometimes you have to just back up and let each other do their thing, because the child is so composed by nature and God that he or she can understand, can deal with the different energies that come to them. So, trusting the other parents, if they're a sober parent, trusting their input into the child, that you don't always have to do it your way. Letting the children see that you are respectfully agreeing or respectfully disagreeing. That important thing is respect, so that the children see, oh, my dad really respects my mom, and my mom really respects my dad. You know, that no matter what, even if there's some disagreement, that respect is there, that tolerance of difference is there, and, having pray together as husband and wife or mother and father, so that you can reach good conclusions together. You won't always have the same way you want to deal with it. But a lot of times, the mother and father actually want the same thing, but have different approaches. Let's say we want a well-behaved child, but mine may be a little more lenient and the dad may be a little more strict. So being willing to compromise on that and to balance that out. And again, don't be afraid to study. So many good books now about parenting and what works, what doesn't, that it's really, really helpful out there.
Thank you.
I got one question.
Yes.
What's your advice on, because the situation right now is I'm working like crazy, and she's gonna stay home with him, so she can kind of like a head start. She's teaching him a lot of stuff. So when I try to save a little bit of energy for everybody when I get home, and I find myself like can't even give any energy to myself, and I'm just, it's like I'm a zombie sometimes. So what's your advice on, like, I guess kind of like a good routine or conduct for, like, the stay-at-home mom and the working dad type of situation?
Okay, so that's a very good question, Travis. So you want to always look at whatever your situation is. If your situation is you have to work so many hours and you don't have so much free time, then, you all kind of be clear on what's expected. Like you're not a miracle worker. But whatever, make sure you do have time in your program, important priority time for your wife and the baby. That's a part of it. It's like you don't work 7 days a week, right?
No.
No.
More like 5
Six,
or 6.
sometimes 6, yeah. So make sure that one day you don't work is a very special day, that is a family day where you have time. And consider that while you're working and you do get off and you're tired, the mother,
Yeah, that's what I'm working
she
on.
does
yeah.
not have a time break. Hers is 24 hours. So if on that, like, you know, when I was in, I think I was in junior high school, when I had a mentor, and she told me that her husband would regularly every year arrange for her to just have 2 weeks vacation, and he would take care of all the children or make arrangements. They had little money, so. But that meant everything. So he was considering that my wife, even though she was a stay-at-home mom to a full-time mother, he needed to give her some just special time. So, you know, doing that, even if it's like an hour or 2 hours for Krishna, because being a mother is full-time. And in the beginning, it'll be hard because you'll have to adjust to schedules. And as long as you are both understanding of one another and what it takes to just maintain today, hopefully we'll come to a situation where we have community where you don't have to work so many hours and there can be a little more time with the family. But also know that when a child is young, it's a sacrificial time. You're gonna not have enough time, maybe not enough. It's just the way that works. But that won't last forever. They'll get a little older. Things will be different. You can make some adjustment. So I would say thoughtfully make sure that when you do have time off, that you spend that quality time with them, and then sometimes give mom a relief, and then you all try to look at your schedules as a couple and see how you can help each other.
Back to the routine.
Yeah.
The routine.
Routine, exactly.
Scheduling
Very
is
important.
important.
Very important. Yeah. And pray for each other, Travis. You know, sometimes I find that we get so busy, caught up, we forget that we don't have to do this thing all by ourselves. That we do have a dear friend who's always with us. But I always like to say that God is a gentleman. He doesn't intrude unless you invite him. So invite him. You ask him, say, Lord, I'm trying to juggle this family. How do I do it? Help me. And believe it or not, he'll help you. Yeah.
I've seen your works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you all. So I guess now we can prepare for the actual ceremony part. And so,
I think he's hungry.
oh,